How much is this? What is 40? Back with another full day of eating with a slight twist. We're eating for performance today. Review Man espressos. We've got Unforgettable double espresso, Bianco Doppio. This one's banging, to be fair. Double espresso, Dolce, Malezzo, and then a decaf one. And we actually have golden caramel, but we're out of stock. So we're just going to top these up. But we've got, as always, we kick the day off with the goated overnight oats. Don't fix something that's not broken. And I always talk around getting clients in shape and having a diet that works for you. If you have a diet and every meal you look forward to, you're going to sustain it for longer. So I'll probably eat that for the rest of my life. So meal one is 100 gram of oats with what is 40 gram of whey and 20 gram of dark chocolate. Yeah, always train fasted at the minute. I did legs and a circuit. I just don't like training on a full stomach, but on a weekend I do eat, and I do perform a lot better. So if you are looking to develop your physique, I would always recommend eating before. It is coming up to Ramadan as well at the minute, and I've got quite a few clients doing that. And what I said to them is, like, make sure you train in the evening, because you can eat before and then you can eat after. Obviously, you don't want to go catabolic. I'm not going to bore you with it because you've seen it 1,000 times. Do you know what everybody requests in the comments? They're like, we hear about the overnight oats, but we actually don't see you make it. So maybe I might make in today's video, show you actually how to do it, because people seem to get terribly confused at such an easy dish. The Unforgettable double espresso, we'll see about that. Still on the milk, that's why I can't get lean. The calories people don't count for. I have one milky coffee now per day. The rest are black. So when I wake up at 5 a.m. and I have my electrolyte, I add a little bit of hot water so it's a little bit bigger. Something about coffee for me, that it's almost like a treat. So it's like, when it been so short and so small, I'm like, it's over. In today's full day of eating, actually, Claudia tried to sabotage my diet yesterday, which people want to talk about price of food. How much is this? 68 dirhams. So let's do the conversion. Crunch has ripped his bed up.
13 quid.
Crunch is on the full day of eating today, but on a different format. How much? 68 dirham? 14.66. So you'll have all seen the Dubai dessert fixed chocolate. There's a lot of different brands, but this is the one. So we got the new Biscoff flavour. I'm not going to lie. How many cubes did you have, Claude? I had one. There's half. That, when I say that is the best chocolate I've ever tasted, I actually mean that. But for a brand to not only just create one like that, the pistachio one's the actual viral one, but I think these are, I think the, oh, Crunch even wants in. I think the Biscoff one is nicer, and then we got the pecan one, which, Claude, which one? You had 5 pieces each, so which would you say is better? Look at the pecan one.
That one looks better for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was close. The Biscoff smashed you in the face as soon as you had it, but it's one of them. I had one little cube of each, and then I had to get to bed. No way.
Batch cookies. Oh my god.
Batch.
Yeah.
I've heard about them.
Yeah.
I've heard they're good. Right, we're gonna do a little Insta shop. So if you're in Dubai, even if you're traveling and you're doing Airbnb, download an app called InstaShop. Put your location in where you live, and it'll bring up all the supermarkets close to you. So thankfully, because we're near the marina, we've got pretty good supermarkets. But there's a few. Chris is just getting eaten by Crunchy. Come on. There's a few different. Come here. Come on. There's a few different shops that you can typically like shop at. There is so many different supermarkets. Fucking fingers are getting chewed off. But for me, it's either like Carrefour or Spinneys. In this example, because Spinneys is close, we're going to go Spinneys. And we're going to just do a few comparisons, UK versus Dubai, even though we ain't got a clue what it costs in the UK, but you guys will. So we've got dark chocolate, which is 78%. That's 20 dirhams. It's 20.75. So if we look at that, that's £4.47 for a bar of dark chocolate. This is where you're going to pay more. Fruit, and I eat loads of fruit. We've got watermelon. So for 500 gram of watermelon chopped in cubes, it's 20.75. However, if you do want to save cash and you're like, do you know what, I've got the time to chop it up, some that's chopped up but not into cubes is $14.25. And then if you want a full watermelon, which is like 1500 gram, it's 34 dirhams. So you can do it cheaper, but I ain't chopping a watermelon up. Now with a chicken breast, this one is the best one. A lot of people get the one what's been often pumped with a lot of water. It's not nice. Even like the Spinneys one, I don't personally like. So this is 28 dirham, which if you look 500 gram and you do 28 dirham, you're talking £6 for 500 gram. Butchers out here aren't amazing. And then if you go to lean beef mince, which a lot of people will be having, it doesn't really specify that it's 5%, but you've got the Spinneys food, grass-fed lean beef mince, no added hormones, 17 dirham. So that's only...
That's 250.
That's 250. Then you've got things like blueberries that I often eat every day. If you look at a pack of blueberries, which I think these are extortionate, 21 dirham. They are expensive. And to note that this is a delivered service and this will be at my door in an hour. So like you're paying for that. And there is also different shops such as Viva, which is like an Aldi version. I've not seen one in the marina, but there may be one. So I know a lot of Brits use Viva who come over. But like I said, for me, it's because I spend the majority of my money on meal prep. And I get 3 meals per day, 7 times per week. I just purchase this as convenience. And the fruit from Spinneys is usually a lot nicer, in my opinion. The meat and everything else for me is done through meal prep. And just to give you some context on that, I pay 2,400 dirham. I get 3 meals per day, 7 days a week. And that's £517. If you do 3 meals, let's do some maths here. Yeah, 30 times 3, 90. And then divide that by 517. What? 517 divided by 90. Yeah. You're talking £5.70 a meal prep. Just to give you some context on that meal prep, I order it at the start of the month. If I need any adjustments, I message through WhatsApp and it's delivered at my door for 8 a.m. every single day. And I'll show you the food that I get. Salmon, chicken, beef mince, veg, and covered in that cost. There is a lot of meal prep companies. This is a Brooklyn Cafe near Banús. The Zero Fat. And then there's other companies as well. If you go on to Deliveroo and you buy a meal, like if we just show you some content, we can show you this now, and you go on to Deliveroo and we use an example. A lot of these meal prep companies now, like Zero Fat, actually have 10 to 15% discount for online coaches, which is amazing. But if we go on to Zero Fat, which is my favorite one, and let's say we want to get what would be, I mean, Jesus, I shouldn't be on this. This is some really nice food. So we'll get a healthy meal, an Asian bowl, for example. So this is 627 calories, 11 fat, 55 protein, 77 carbs. And this is 71 dirham. That's £15 for a meal prep. If I was just to order that now, not including the Deliveroo service charge. But that's the average standard price. If you're just going out and about, you're a tourist, you go on Deliveroo, you're like, right, get me a meal prep. Wow, it's £15. This is where Dubai starts to get a little bit of a name of it being so expensive. When you live here and you know how to move around, things like that, it actually works out pretty cost effective. Got the meal prep. We have salmon and we have rice. So 150, 150. And then we also have I usually put 150 cherry tree tomatoes with that. When I eat salmon every day, I'm happy. I love salmon. The reason I have salmon is because I don't really have many fats. The only fats I have in my diet is a dark chocolate at 20 grams. So this is a great source of fats and I can get away with it every single day. If you're having loads of peanut butter, almond butter, avocado, dark chocolate, you're not going to be able to fit this into your macros. So you need to look, right, okay, what am I having fats wise and what do I want? So this is why I have salmon every day, because yes, it's higher in fat, but it's the only fat that I have on top of dark chocolate. And then rice, because for me, rice is easy digestible. This is jasmine rice as well. So the way it's broken down is better. And then the second meal, I have this in the evening. The reason I have this is because where potatoes sit. So if you look, I've got under there is some chicken, but we've got like chicken took, and then we've got some potatoes in there. So the reason I have potatoes is because, very simply, they keep me fuller than rice. And if you look at the satiation index, it's the same for everyone. So if you aren't eating loads of food, get potatoes in your diet. If you're in a fat loss phase, have potatoes in your diet. If you're in an off season, remove them immediately because you won't want your meals. And then we also have what is chicken and then rice. So a staple, again here I have like a chicken toque, which is pretty much just like standard chicken, but with like a nice seasoning on it. Super healthy, very low in fats, and then I have rice again, easy to digest. Greens that I have across the day, a tender stem broccoli, green beans, just because they're the ones that I enjoy. Often people forget about micronutrients and the importance of them as well as vegetables. But whether you're in a fat loss phase or whether you're in an off season, you need to keep those in because micronutrients are a key fundamental part of your nutrition breakdown. I'll give you the measurements as I eat them, and I'll give you a little bit more knowledge as I eat them because I think it's important that you understand, right, how has Ben been able to stay in shape for the last 5 to 6 years and stay on plan? Because that's a common question that I get asked, and it's by sustainability of the diet. Each meal I love, but also it sits well, it digests well. People in coaching now and the industry that we operate in is unregulated. The amount of people I see with gut issues who have bloatedness, who don't generally register where they should on the stool chart, and we're going to talk around the stool chart, and it's just ignored because the coaches don't actually have the knowledge base to be able to understand that and interpret it and say, right, okay, you're type 6 on the stool chart, you've basically got diarrhea and you're shitting 6 times a day, but they don't know how to rectify that and do anything around it. The difference with what I do and a lot of the coaches at NewGen is we're nutritionists. So we understand how to break down how much fiber you need, what you should be eating in your diet, and we do a root cause analysis meal by meal to say, right, that's not digesting well, let's remove it. And if you look at all this fancy food, it's not about what you can eat, it's about what you can digest. If I go for a lovely steak or if I go for an Indian, there's trouble the next day. But as I said, like, people don't understand the importance of nutrition. And it's like me, I love Greek yogurt. I could eat it every single day. But when I eat it, my stomach kills. So I'm not going to continue to do that. However, some coaches, the clients will say, oh, don't really digest well. And they'll start scratching their head thinking, what shall I do now? So first thing that we look at is stool chart. If something's not digesting well, we remove it. And this is why, like, people say there's fad diets around there, like the carnivore and X, Y, and Z. But ultimately, if people struggle to absorb certain nutrients or they have certain intolerances, get intolerance tests done. Have a look at it, break it down, understand it. I had a client who's 14 weeks out and he's having serious gut issues at the minute, serious digestive issues. And we looked at what he was high in terms of intolerance to, and it was a serious intolerance test, not just a generic one. We understood that there were certain parts in his nutrition that he couldn't digest and absorb, and he was highly tolerant to. So we removed them, fixed. But again, the knowledge base and the skill set in the industry for coaches to be able to do that at the minute is really down here. I was actually looking at that and I did forget. I actually have basmati rice now. On prep, I used to have jasmine rice. But the only difference is with basmati rice, it's just got a lower glycemic index. It's a little bit easier to digest, basmati rice is. So I have basmati rice with this one. I think I have jasmine rice with the other one. And to be honest, I'm not being too complex with it, but that's just a note for people who are writing nutrition plans in terms of like blood sugar control with the basmati rice versus a jasmine. I can't actually decide which I prefer, basmati or jasmine. I think I prefer the sushi rice that you get back in the UK. It's banging. And then we have the cherry tree tomatoes. Why? Because I like them and I don't want 3 meals with like 100 grams of greens in. So I just have a little bit of veggie variety. Sometimes that mixes for onions and peppers. Sauces at the minute I'm limiting. Trying to not have too much sauce because it doesn't agree with me. It like sits and again we talk around digestion. My go-tos with this meal would be like a light sweet chili or like a hot sriracha sauce. But I think the sweet chili one with salmon is the best. But yeah, that's meal 2. And actually the property of this is, again, cooked weight because it's prepped. So what I do is I get 200 grams of rice and I get 150 grams of salmon. Veg of choice today is the organic veggies, which is broccoli florets. And I have 100 gram with what is now meal 3. And I have 100 gram also with my final meal. We talked around the importance of having certain foods at certain points. Now, if you're prepping for a show or you're trying to get super lean, potatoes as you come into peak week or the final 14 days, you want to remove them just because they do contain and they're harder to digest in terms of the nutrient quality. Rice, for example. So here we've just got what is 150 cooked chicken and again, 200 gram of rice. Remember, I am performing for nutrition now. So the calories I will put at the end of the video, but I'm not trying to eat to get lean. I'm trying to eat to get strong, form in the gym, to actually hold on to the muscle now, because even Claudia said the other day, I'm too skinny. I must be getting skinny. So we have 100 gram of greens with these and 100 gram of greens with the final meal. Common question I get asked is like, what greens should I have? Have the greens you enjoy and that you can sustain. Again, it's very much goal dependent. Throughout prep, I was always on asparagus, and the reason for that is because it encourages you to piss, basically. You don't hold on to much water. Whereas now, I don't want to be pissing 15 times an hour. But yeah, we'll get into meal 2. I like to eat this one on the balcony though, because we'll get into meal 3 now, because I'm behind schedule. And again, actually meal timings, I know I'm waffling this video, but it's important. Whether you're in an off season, whether you're in a dieting phase, have set meal timings. For me, I fast in the morning. So I eat meal 1 at 9 o'clock. I eat meal 2 at 12:30. And then now it's around 3:30. So I eat this meal anywhere between 3:30 and 4:30. And then I have snacks in between, which of course we'll talk around, which is fruit, just to garnish on as I work throughout the day. I always like to eat meal 3 outside. We're in February now, right at the end, so it's actually heating up a little bit more. Another question I get asked is like sauces, seasonings. I've just mentioned sauces, but seasonings are fine. 10 to 15 gram, like per serving. Again, this is another really good question that I got asked. If you're in a prep phase and you're dieting for a show, can I have sauce and seasoning? It's all sodium. So like if you really want to take things to an extreme, you can pull sauces, you can pull seasoning, you can eat a lot of bland food. Or alternatively, what you can do is include it into your actual sodium intake. For me at the minute, I'm just having typically, I say to the chef, like 5 to 10 gram per serving on the chicken, and it makes that chicken 10-10. Lighter than light alternative sauces are absolutely sweet. Don't be doing any full fat mayo, because I think per 10 gram there's about 100. So again, you do that over 3 meals, you're accumulating over 1,500, 2,000 calories for the week. So it's pointless eating that. You may as well go and grab yourself a KFC. But yeah, I sit here, I soak the sun up a little bit. As you can tell, we've been back in Dubai now 8 weeks, and I've got the tan like I've been sat on Skegness Beach for about 2 hours. Don't get out much in the sun, so this is a little part of the day. We've got some new chairs, some new seats, because I head back to the UK soon, and my mum and my stepdad are coming out to stay at my apartment to look after the little man. I love fruit, and I've kind of cut out a lot of sugar out of my diet recently, and I think I mentioned this in a previous video. I used to be always grabbing squares, bars and things, and there's nothing wrong with them in moderation, and in terms of like utilizing them before you train and after. Great for the energy that they provide and the restoration of glycogen. For me now, I'm just typically building a diet out that I can stick to for the rest of my life, and I'll always utilize fruit. So at the minute, my rotation of fruit is I have 500 gram of melon. So I usually split that like 250 rock melon and then 250 watermelon. I'm going to try this like this today. I'll always have an apple. And what I find since utilizing a lot more fruit in my diet and a lot less processed food is my digestion, if you want to look at the Barstool stool chart, is type 3 and type 4 every single day consistently. Versus when I was eating a lot more processed stuff, it wasn't great. Now that doesn't mean that's going to be the same for you, but what I'm trying to do is add value here. And if you've got things wrong, find solutions to the problems. By having this much fruit is just allowing me to, one, stay satiated. If you look at melon, it contains a lot of water, especially watermelon. So it fills me up. Also, if you look at the nutrients in an apple and what that does for digestion, amazing, especially the skin and what the skin contains. If you're struggling to pass stool, put an apple in your diet and I guarantee your stool chart and your stool movement will increase. So we're gonna have a little bit of melon, and then this is like my little snack. So I just garnish on this while doing a little bit of work. But yeah, the key thing is having snacks that are gonna keep you fuller versus, for me, a rice cake that I could eat 30 of. This 500 gram does a business and I'm full for a few hours. Now, a key ingredient that it doesn't go with every meal, but with my cooked meals is I typically aim for like 5 to 6 turns of pink Himalayan salt. Now, again, in moderation, this is really good for you. It's used a lot in bodybuilding, and the reason for this is because it supports and helps with nutrient transport. So for example, you have a big carb meal and you have a serving of 5 to 6 turns of pink Himalayan salt, it transports the nutrients better and more effectively. So it's really good to generate pumps in the gym. So that's why you'll see it in a lot of bodybuilders' diet. For me, it makes food taste nicer. So 5 to 6 turns per meal. A thing that I would like to mention is terms of like empty calories. I've mentioned whole foods and I've mentioned like milk in coffee. It's common sense. Like if you're having full fat milk in a coffee, if you're getting a regular cappuccino from Starbucks, you're talking 100, 150, 200 calories. You're doing that 7 times a week, 1,400 calories on top of your diet. You've got to be smart if you want to be in shape. But one thing that keeps me in a good spot, might get scrutinized, but I do have a selection of diet-free drinks. I have Pepsi Max, I'll have Coke Zero, and then I actually used to rely on these, and this is definitely from bodybuilding, but now I just have 1 or 2 a week, which is like a Monster or a Go, sugar-free. I've just had one now, Friday treat. I want to get off them, to be honest, because I do think, for one, they're a rip-off, and for two, the amount of caffeine to consume in one hit is quite, for me, detrimental. It picks me up and slams me back down. And there is a lot of chemicals and sweeteners in them. But yeah, I think it's just important to be transparent. They do help in a diet. If you're in a deficit, having one of those fills you up. And there is new studies and new literature actually showing that they have no impact on fat loss whatsoever. So for me, I always want to reference it to business and people who maybe look at NewGen and look at me. If you're a bodybuilder and you're coming into peak week and these do not cause digestive stress, keep them in. When you're loading your carbs in the final few days, take them out because they can affect your digestion. But if you reference my videos for when I was on prep last year, I kept Monsters in until probably 2-3 days out. And then when I was loading with carbs, I pulled them out just to ensure digestion was absolutely sweet. But they have no effect on fat loss. You've got clients on the Marbella photo shoot. You need to think, mate, obviously, if you're loading them with carbs, the photo shoot's on the Friday. So typically you're going to do the load Tuesday, Wednesday with a back off on the Thursday. You don't want any client flying when they're loading carbs because they're going to hold on to the fluid. Again, you can just deploy vitamin C when they land and get them to get some output in straight away and shift that fluid. It's, again, 2-hour flight, but it depends where they're flying from. If they're flying from the UAE or anywhere like that, then it's a long haul flight. But a lot of my clients have said fly early Tuesday, get there for the morning, and then we'll do the carb load Tuesday, Wednesday. And then if we need more on the Thursday, we have that time. But the logistics of a photo shoot prep when you're flying numerous clients all over the world, again, don't let them fly and load carbs. I remember when I was competing in Europe last year, I was meant to carb load. And again, this is why I personally think, even though I won the M-Pro, I didn't look as good as I did at the M-Pro versus the Amateur Olympia, because did we miss his flight? We missed his flight, so I literally landed. Did I land the morning of the show? No, it was the night before the show. I landed the day before the show, so I was loading all day. So I was literally on the flight eating rice cakes. You remember when I landed? Nearly had a breakdown. I was like, I'm soft. I'm fucking holding loads of water. So we got out for a walk, had some vitamin C, and it did shift it. But in terms of like coaches, if you're working with athletes and putting them on stage and they're flying across Europe, always get them to have a couple of days wiggle room just to shift that little water. Finished a few later calls. I wrap up earlier on a Friday, but still pretty late because I do typically operate off the UK clock. But we've got the final meal here. And I've started eating this a bit earlier because I was eating too close to bed. And I think your final meal should sit anywhere between like 90 to 120 minutes pre-bed, because if not, what happens is your body's still absorbing, digesting those nutrients. Your heart rate will be elevated. And if you use anything like a fitness tracker, a Whoop, or an Oura Ring, it will actually show that your readiness score, or your HRV, which is your heart rate variability, the recovery indicator, is actually not recovering. So if you're constantly getting low scores on a Whoop or a HRV and you're eating your final meal literally an hour to 45 minutes pre-bed, that will be why. So I've just kind of positioned this earlier so that my body's fully rested, ready to sleep. But we've got 300 gram of cooked potato here, 150 chicken, and then we've just got 100 greens ready to finish off. But the reason I have this meal last is because of the potatoes. So obviously the nutrient profile and where this lands in terms of the food map, this will keep me a lot fuller for longer. So typically, if I was to eat my jasmine rice meal or my basmati rice meal, I wouldn't be full. And remember, I train early in the morning, 5 o'clock fasted. So I feel like this meal just allows me to stay full to my meal one, which is going to be 14 hours away. As I said, if you are training for physique development, if you want to add muscle mass, if you want to get stronger and apply progressive overload in the gym, I would highly recommend training after you've eaten. For me at the minute, with a performance-based goal, I'm just typically training in the morning for routine purposes. Makes me feel good. I'm energized. I don't need to eat because I'm lighter when I'm doing my runs and things like that. But from a physique development standpoint, always eat before. This is what a typical day of eating will look like for me. However, if I do get hungry, I do add more food. What I would do in this instance is, like, you've got to understand the profile of macronutrients. Protein is broken down into amino acids. So at the minute, my protein's high because it keeps me satiated and full, and because I'm doing a lot of training, the demand requires a lot of recovery, and therefore that's coming from the protein. Carbohydrates, if you look when I'm training, ultimately, I'm not eating before. So the demand for carbs is only post-workout, but I do eat them with every meal just for general energy across the course of the day. But if you actually look how many I'm having, it's not too intense. It's just allowing me to fuel my body to recover over the course of the day from the extensive training I'm doing. And then fats are broken down into fat. So that's why I'm not eating too many fats at the minute. Typically in an off season, that's where you see people have too many fats in their diet and they get fat very quickly. Again, in an off season, people eat too much protein and therefore they suppress their appetite. So when you're setting a nutrition plan up in a typical fashion of an off season, if your appetite's suppressed, drop your protein to a gram, or sometimes even 0.8. I wouldn't recommend 0.8 though, but maybe a gram per pound of body weight. Typically I start at 1.2, and then when appetite's suppressed, navigate it down just to clear the GI up. Because if you want to get scientific with it, the hardest macronutrient to digest is protein, right? So if I get hungry, for example, I may add something else in, like a little dessert, 0% fat-free yogurt. Again, it doesn't sit well, so that's usually something I'd prevent. May have a protein with some potential peanut butter or some berries just to keep me fuller. So this diet here works for me. The key for you getting in shape and the key for you staying in shape is having a diet that doesn't feel like a diet. I look forward to each meal, I enjoy it, and I can sustain it. I'm not clutching for another off-plan meal at the weekend. I could happily go without one, and that's why I've meal prepped 7 days a week, 3 meals a day. So hopefully this was valuable. I will put the macros on the screen. Again, these aren't going to be tailored to you. They're for my needs at the minute, which is performance. I'm not training to look a certain way. I'm training to maintain this look and be able to perform both in the gym, but also from a performance standpoint and an aerobic standpoint. So I hope this was helpful. I know I don't eat the most exciting food, but it works for me. If you want a dessert here and there, you can again fit it into your macros, but it's goal dependent. If you want to see anything else on the channel, remember to comment, like, and subscribe, but I'll see you in the next one.